Running a successful meeting with a prospective consulting client is key to getting started on the right foot and to create more opportunities for you to win business. In this video, I'm going to share with you the steps and structure of running a highly effective meeting. So number one, you should prepare thoroughly by researching the client's business, industry, challenges, and goals ahead of time. It is incredible that people do not do this. Not only does it signal to the prospective buyer that you are lazy, but it also takes away from you positioning yourself, the opportunity to position yourself as an authority and expert. There's no excuse in the world that we live in today not to be able to come up with some research. Whether you are using AI tools, Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, there's so many out there, but you can do research. It's easy to do research into companies, into industries, and you have no reason not to do that. The more that you do that, the more powerful, the more confident you will become. You will exude confidence in your meetings when you know what you are actually talking about, when you've done your homework. That includes doing your homework on the person that you're going to meet. Where did they go to school? Where did they grow up? What companies have they worked at? Then next, doing your homework on the actual organization and company, the history. How long has it been in business, or has it been running? Do they have offices around the world? What industries are they in? What products do they have, right? And the industry at large. What's going on in the industry? What are the biggest threats and dangers and opportunities? What are the biggest developments? Are there changes that are upcoming in terms of regulation or taxation or different laws? This is all stuff that you should be looking at. So think about the person, the organization, and the industry when it comes to researching before you actually sit down and have that meeting. And yes, this is both, whether it's on a Zoom or Teams call, in person, on the telephone, it doesn't matter, but you should be doing this research before you actually meet with a buyer. The more that you do, the more powerful and confident you will be, and your buyer, right, the person you're actually be speaking with, will notice that difference. The second thing is to develop an agenda, right? So you can position this as a very valuable conversation and meeting even before you have it. So rather than just, for example, sending an invitation through your calendar that has your name and their name, or something like, meeting or call, there's no value in the name of that. But if you actually create a name for this session, for example, maybe you're going to call it marketing and business development, opportunities for XYZ company. Well, that's something that if you believe, and that's the purpose for the meeting, to explore that with that buyer, that when they see that in their calendar, they're going to be much less likely to cancel or reschedule that. Because if that's a top of mind issue or a problem, right? Or if you're going to be sharing three insights or trends that are critical to, the growth in X industry, again, they see that in their calendar, that conveys a lot more value than just meeting with Tom, right, at 10 a.m. So consider that. But then also think about, well, what is the agenda for the meeting? Is there anything that you should prepare and send in advance? We've talked about at Consulting Success, we have lots of other resources for you. And especially we've done this with many of our clients inside of our Clarity Coaching Program, where we train and give you scripts and templates around how to actually prepare pre-sales kind of campaign and a sequence and a series, so that you can start to sell before you actually have a conversation with somebody. And when I say sell, I don't mean it in the negative kind of car salesperson type of way, but rather how you can add value, how you can demonstrate your knowledge, your authority, your expertise, your kind of credentials and credibility before you even have a conversation, so that when you do, you don't have to spend time talking about your methodology and about how great you are and your accolades and everything you've done, because that's already been taken care of before you've actually had the conversation. So look into pre-sales, or if you want some help with that, reach out to us at consultingsuccess.com, and we'll be happy to talk with you about how you can apply that kind of pre-sales process into your business. But again, number two is for you to set the agenda, create a powerful and valuable kind of meeting invite, send that in advance, and start to think about that pre-sales process. Number three is to build rapport and the relationship, right? A great question for this is to ask something like, what prompted you to see me today, right? If you're in that meeting, ask them why they want to meet, what was top of mind for them, and start to build some rapport, right? Again, based on your research, you might find that they're, some kind of a sports fan, or they went to a certain school that you went to, or that they're from, they recently traveled someplace that's your hometown or that you also went to. You can start to find these kinds of things. Remember, this is a relationship-based business. People don't do business with people that they don't like or trust. And so the more that you can start to build that trust, the more that you can start to build that relationship and establish some rapport, early on in the meeting is really key. So that's number 3. Number 4 is that in your meeting, you should be actively looking for opportunities to provide value to that buyer. Your initial meeting, right, should not be to sell. You shouldn't be, trying to do a hard sell or to try and persuade or to promote. You should be asking deep, meaningful questions and sharing information, insights, data that not only demonstrates your expertise and knowledge of the industry, but also helps the buyer to see things they haven't seen before or to think about things in ways they haven't thought about them before. What you're doing is you're trying to identify gaps that will solve problems or create value and outcomes and results for that buyer. Once you do that, when you ask these questions, right, when you're looking for opportunities, you should talk about how they can improve, meaning the organization, how, the buyer that you're speaking with. Point out the opportunities for them to improve, right? Don't keep that for later on. Start to talk about that. You're not going to hand over the blueprint of exactly how they can do it from step 1 to step 2, 3, 4, 5, but you are going to give them in that meeting, or should give them that meeting, some indication that you have knowledge and ideas of how they can make improvements. And when you do that, they're going to likely, if it resonates with them, they're going to want to explore that further of how can they actually, realize or bring to life those improvements into their organization. Now, it's important that at this stage, right, number 4, you're not talking about your methodology. You're not going to get into the details of how you do everything that you do. That is not the purpose of that initial meeting. The purpose is for you to, again, build that relationship, find opportunities, ask meaningful questions, start to uncover and establish value. So that takes us to number 5. And number 5 is all about getting really clear on what is the value. What does success look like for this person and for the organization, right? When you've identified the problems, you've looked at the opportunities, you start to find ways to make improvements that you've discussed with them and shared with them. You want to now get really clear about, well, what does success actually look like? What is a metric that we can use and we can agree upon, right? The two of us or whoever's in that room or on the Zoom or Teams call. But what is the metric that we can together agree on that would be a great metric to track and that would show that we're going in the right direction, right? You clarify the value of achieving success. You clarify what is the value to that person or to that organization, right? Think about the impact. What will the impact be? You've identified the gap. You've talked about improvements. Now, at this 5th kind of stage, it's all about getting really clear on what is the actual impact? What is the value? And how can we together agree that there's some metric that we can use to track that? And there might be more than one metric, but at least identify one kind of KPI, one metric that is relevant to that buyer, that is an agreed upon way to track success. Now that takes us to number 6. So number 6 is you should confirm the importance of solving that problem or doing that work and making that improvement. Before you run off to write a proposal or you just leave that meeting, it's important that you really ensure and confirm that this, whatever you're talking about, the engagement, the opportunity, is something that is important to that buyer and to their organization, right? Ask them those questions. You might say, how much of a priority is this for you now? Or is this a priority for you in Q2, right? You want to make sure that this is something that is important for them. It's critical for them, right? It's a top priority for them because if it's not, then you might find yourself spending a lot of time, creating a proposal, having many meetings, but they're not actually thinking about doing this for another year. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to support them or to have conversations with them or to explore, depending on the size and scope of the project. It might take several months, right? Or many months to actually get to the point where, the payment has been made, the agreements have been signed and so forth. But that doesn't mean that you should not be focused on that. That doesn't mean that you should not be, focused on establishing, is this important for you to do now or not? And if it's not, then continue to develop that relationship until the point that it is. But if this is a priority for them now, which is what you're aiming for, and you've explored the value of solving it, the reasons why to do this, the reasons, or the cost of not doing it right now, when the buyers can confirm for you that, yes, this is something that we want to do. It is a top priority for us. It's something that we actually should have done 3 months ago, but here we are today. We really need to get started on this. That's what you're looking for, right? But you don't want to rush off to create a proposal for somebody who isn't actually ready to move forward. And so then the 7th and final part here is to actually talk about the next steps. One of the biggest mistakes that people can make in an initial buyer meeting is to finish the meeting and not talk about next steps. If you do that, you're going to, extend your sales cycle significantly. You're going to slow things down. To accelerate, to keep, the energy and the flow and the momentum going, you want to talk about what the next steps are. And so the next steps are for you to really, identify that the buyer has kind of, the right people involved. You want to understand, what does the decision-making process look like for something like this? You want to talk about what the next steps are in terms of that you are going to put together a proposal. Hopefully, something you can get done rather quickly within a day or two so that it can be turned around. You want to talk about when you're going to jump on that call together or get together to review the proposal. Don't send send the proposal in advance, but review it with them. That allows you to take their questions, to deal with any objections, for you to explain the different options or the paths that they might take, explain the investment, explain the ROI, explain all the different components that will contribute to this being a successful project, or what to look out for to help them to evaluate, to make the right decision. And you also want to figure out and ask them the question about it once you've kind of talked about that, before you've actually started the proposal. You want to find out, is there anything that would hold you back, or hold your team back, or hold this back from moving forward? Because you're trying to identify potential objections early on. They might tell you, well, no, this sounds really great to me. I think the only thing that could potentially hold us back is if my CFO says no. Well, now that's important information for you, because you might and likely should then suggest that, well, why don't we just jump on a quick call with your CFO? Does tomorrow work for you, or later in the week, or early next week? Find time so that you can talk through it. Because if you put together a proposal that does not include what the CFO cares about, but the CFO is going to influence the decision and potentially could stop the project from happening, it's much better for you to slow things down for a moment, have another meeting, get the CFO involved, hear what they care about, hear their perspectives, and then make sure that the proposal that you put together, if you decide to move forward, includes the feedback and acceptance and agreement from all the different people that are actually involved in making that decision. Once you've done that, right, you schedule your next step, you review the proposal, and you move forward from there. So that's what I want to cover in the video here today. Again, we have many more resources for you on proposals, on sales conversations, on how to increase your fees, how to build your pipeline. You can head over to consultingsuccess.com, check out the link below this video as well, to get you over there and to give you some free resources to help you to grow your consulting business. And of course, if you ever have some questions about this, reach out, get in touch, or look at another video on our channel here. We're uploading a lot more these days, and appreciate your feedback on what videos you'd like, or what topics you'd like me to explore in an upcoming video for you.